The white lights in the medical room hurt Zekthara's eyes. His body was covered in bandages, and every breath sent pain through his chest. The Vorthak commander had been in this bed for 3 days now, trying to forget what happened on the human world. The door opened with a soft hiss. Sub-Commander Yilmoth walked in, his young face showing curiosity and concern. He carried a datapad and sat down in the chair next to the bed. "Commander Zekthara," Yilmoth said softly, "the High Command wants to know what happened on New Helena. They need your report." Zekthara closed his eyes. He did not want to remember. But he knew he had to tell someone. Maybe if he spoke about it, the nightmares would stop. "You want to know about the humans?" Zekthara's voice was rough. "I will tell you, but you will not believe me." Yilmoth turned on his recording device. "Tell me everything, sir." Zekthara stared at the ceiling. "We thought it would be easy. Our scouts watched the human colony for months. They saw farmers and shopkeepers, simple people with basic weapons. No energy shields, no advanced technology, just another weak species to add to our empire." He paused, remembering the confidence he had felt. 12 of our best ships went to New Helena. 3,000 elite soldiers. We had conquered 40 worlds before this one. The humans looked no different from the others. "What went wrong?" Yilmoth asked. "Everything." Zekthara's hands shook as he spoke. "When we landed, the settlement looked normal. Small buildings, farms, simple roads. But something felt wrong from the start. It was too quiet." The commander's voice grew darker. "Our first squad moved toward the main building. That's when we learned our first lesson about humans. They had been watching us too." Zekthara described how the ground exploded under his soldiers' feet. Hidden mines made from farming equipment tore through their armor. But the explosions were just the beginning. The humans came out of holes in the ground, he continued. Tunnels everywhere. They had turned their entire settlement into a trap. But that was not the worst part. What was the worst part? Yilmoth leaned forward. They were not afraid. Zekthara's voice dropped to a whisper. Every other species we conquered showed fear. They ran or surrendered or begged for mercy, not the humans. They smiled. The commander told Yilmoth about Lieutenant Jake Morrison. The human soldier appeared from nowhere when a Vorthak squad cornered a group of civilians. Morrison carried simple human weapons, but he used them in ways that defied logic. He threw explosive devices that he made from farm tools, Zekthara said. Each one was perfectly timed, perfectly placed. He moved like he could see the future. Our soldiers could not hit him. Morrison fought alone against 12 Vorthak warriors. He should have died in the first few seconds. Instead, he killed half of them and wounded the rest before disappearing back into the tunnels. Our squad leader, Tekvor, was a veteran of 20 battles. Zekthara continued. He had never seen anything like Morrison. The human took 3 plasma shots to the chest and kept fighting. The wounds should have killed him instantly. But Morrison did more than just survive. He turned the Vorthak weapons against them. He studied their armor while fighting and found weak points that even the Vorthak did not know existed. Morrison spoke to us in our own language, Zekthara said, his voice full of disbelief. Perfect Vorthak words. He had learned our language just by listening to our communications during the battle. In minutes, not months. The human soldier taunted the Vorthak troops, telling them exactly how he would defeat them. Then he did exactly what he promised. He used their own tactics against them, but better than they ever could. He knew our training manuals, Zekthara whispered. Things that took us years to learn, he understood in moments. It was like fighting a mirror that was better than the original. Yilmoth struggled to understand. But how is that possible? Humans have smaller brains than us. They should be slower to learn. That is what we thought too. Zekthara's eyes were wide with remembered terror. We were wrong about everything. The humans did not just fight us. They studied us. Every move we made, they learned from it and became stronger. The commander described how Morrison finally disappeared, but not because he was defeated. The human simply melted back into the tunnels when reinforcements arrived. He had accomplished his goal of saving the civilians and gathering information about Vorthak tactics. Later, we found messages he had carved into the walls, Zekthara said, written in perfect Vorthak script. They were not threats or insults. They were lessons. He was teaching us about ourselves, showing us weaknesses we never knew we had. The worst part, Zekthara explained, was that Morrison was just one human. The settlement had dozens of them, and each one fought with the same impossible determination and adaptability. Our intelligence was completely wrong, the commander said. The humans were not primitive farmers. They were warriors pretending to be farmers. They had been preparing for us long before we arrived. Yilmoth looked confused, but our scouts watched them for months. They saw only peaceful activities. The humans let us see what they wanted us to see, Zekthara replied. While we watched their farms, they were digging tunnels. While we counted their simple weapons, they were building advanced ones underground. They played weak until the moment they chose to show their strength. The commander's voice became bitter. We pride ourselves on being the greatest military force in the galaxy. We have conquered every species we encountered, but the humans taught us that we knew nothing about war. He closed his eyes again, exhausted by the memory. That was just the first day, Yilmoth. Just the first few hours. And already our perfect invasion was falling apart. What happened next? Yilmoth asked quietly. Zekthara looked at his young subordinate with pity. Next, we learned that humans become more dangerous when you hurt them. Much more dangerous. Yilmoth waited for his commander to continue. Zekthara stared at his bandaged hands, remembering things he wished he could forget. You want to know about human resilience? Zekthara said. I will tell you about Dr. Lisa Kane. The commander described the attack on the medical center. The Vorthak forces had surrounded the building where human civilians hid with their wounded. It should have been a simple operation. Medical facilities were usually the easiest targets because healers rarely fought back. We expected scared doctors and helpless patients, Zekthara said. Instead, we found something that still haunts my dreams. Dr. Kane had barricaded herself inside with 30 wounded humans and 20 civilians. When the Vorthak soldiers broke down the doors, they walked into what Kane had turned the medical center into. Every piece of equipment had become a weapon. She had rewired the building's power systems, Zekthara explained. Electrical traps everywhere. Our soldiers stepped on metal plates and were electrocuted. She used medical scanners to detect our movements through walls. But the traps were just the beginning. Dr. Kane fought with surgical instruments, moving through the building like she knew every corner and shadow. She used her knowledge of anatomy to target weak points in Vorthak armor that military manuals said did not exist. A scalpel in the right place can cut through battle armor, Zekthara said quietly. She knew exactly where to strike. Our soldiers fell one by one, and she barely had a scratch on her. What terrified the Vorthak troops most was how Dr. Kane protected her patients. She moved wounded humans into secret rooms she had prepared, using medical equipment to hide their life signs from Vorthak scanners. She performed surgery while fighting, Zekthara continued, saving lives with one hand, taking them with the other. She never stopped being a doctor, even in battle. The commander's voice grew strained as he described Sergeant Danny Torres. The human soldier had been caught in a plasma cannon blast that should have vaporized him. Instead, Torres kept fighting with burns covering half his body. Our plasma weapons cook flesh from the inside, Zekthara said. Torres should have died instantly. Instead, he used the destroyed metal around him to make armor. Melted Vorthak ship parts became his protection. Torres fought for 6 hours with injuries that would have killed 3 Vorthak soldiers. He moved slower than before, but he moved smarter. Every piece of pain seemed to teach him something new about fighting. He turned his wounds into advantages, the commander explained. The burns on his hands let him grip hot metal without feeling it. The damaged nerves made him immune to our pain weapons. He became stronger through suffering. Yilmoth struggled to understand. But that violates basic biology. Injured creatures become weaker, not stronger. That is what we thought, Zekthara replied. Humans do not follow our rules. They change the rules. The commander told his subordinate about the growing fear among Vorthak troops. Soldiers who had never shown terror in dozens of battles began to panic when fighting humans. The humans' refusal to die properly broke something in the Vorthak mind. We started using weapons designed to kill large animals, Zekthara said. Weapons that could destroy buildings. Torres took direct hits and kept moving. The other humans saw this and became inspired, not frightened. Captain Amy Foster had somehow learned to speak Vorthak during the battle. She used captured communication equipment to broadcast messages to the Vorthak fleet. Her words were perfect, without accent or error. She told us exactly how she was going to defeat us, Zekthara said, step by step like she was reading from a book. Then she did exactly what she promised. Foster seemed to understand Vorthak psychology better than most Vorthak did. She knew which words would make soldiers angry, which would make them afraid, and which would make them make mistakes. She turned our own discipline against us, the commander explained. Our training taught us to follow orders without question. She gave us false orders in perfect Vorthak, and we obeyed them. The most disturbing part was how quickly humans learned. Every Vorthak tactic they encountered, they mastered and improved within hours. Weapons that took Vorthak engineers years to develop, humans understood after seeing them once. Dr. Kane repaired our damaged equipment and made it work better than when it was new, Zekthara said. Torres used our own weapons with more skill than our veterans. Foster commanded our soldiers better than our officers. The humans shared knowledge instantly. What one learned, they all seemed to know. Kane's medical discoveries helped Torres fight better. Torres's combat experience helped Foster plan strategies. Foster's psychological insights helped Kane treat patients. They fight like one mind in many bodies, Zekthara whispered. Individual humans are dangerous. Groups of humans are impossible. Yilmoth looked at his datapad, trying to process what he was hearing. Our scientists say this level of adaptation is impossible. Evolution takes millions of years. Evolution? Zekthara laughed bitterly. Humans do not wait for evolution. They evolve during battle. Every fight makes them more dangerous than the last. The commander described watching human civilians join the fighting. People with no military training became effective soldiers in minutes. They learned by watching other humans fight, copying and improving techniques instantly. An old man named Carl picked up a Vorthak rifle, Zekthara said. He had never seen the weapon before. Within minutes he was using it better than soldiers who trained with it for years. Even more frightening was how humans used their emotions. Fear, anger, and pain did not weaken them. Instead, these feelings seemed to unlock new abilities. Torres fought better when he was angry, the commander explained. Kane worked faster when she was afraid for her patients. Foster became more creative when she was in pain. Suffering made them stronger, not weaker. The battle at the medical center lasted 12 hours. When it ended, Dr. Kane had saved all her patients and defeated 2 full squads of Vorthak soldiers. Torres had destroyed 3 armored vehicles with weapons he built from scrap. Foster had convinced half a squad of Vorthak troops to surrender by speaking to them in their own language. We retreated from a medical center, Zekthara said with shame. Elite Vorthak soldiers running from a doctor and a wounded sergeant. But we had no choice. Staying meant death. As the Vorthak forces pulled back, they could hear the humans singing, not songs of victory, but songs of preparation. They were already planning their next move. That was when I knew we were not fighting a battle, Zekthara concluded. We were fighting a species that was born for war, and we were losing. Zekthara's breathing became heavier as he continued his story. Yilmoth noticed his commander's hands were shaking more than before. The third day changed everything, Zekthara said. That was when Staff Sergeant Rick Coleman taught us that humans could fight in space without ships. The commander described how Coleman and his small team had somehow reached the Vorthak fleet in orbit. The humans had no spacecraft, no way to leave their planet's surface, yet somehow they appeared on the command ships. Our sensors showed nothing, Zekthara explained. No ships approaching, no energy signatures, no life signs. Then suddenly humans were inside our most secure vessels. Coleman's team moved through the ship like ghosts. They appeared in corridors, completed their mission, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Security cameras caught glimpses of them, but never enough to track their movements. They used our own airlocks against us, the commander said. Coleman's team somehow opened them from the outside and entered during scheduled maintenance cycles. They knew our procedures better than our own crew. What terrified the Vorthak crews most was how Coleman's humans survived in space. Vacuum exposure should have killed them in seconds. Instead, they moved between ships like they were walking through air. We watched them on external cameras, Zekthara whispered. No breathing equipment, no pressure suits. Just humans floating in hard vacuum, working with tools like they were in a workshop. Coleman himself spent 20 minutes in space, cutting through hull plating with a plasma torch he had stolen from the ship's maintenance bay. The cold and radiation should have killed him 10 times over. He was not just alive, the commander continued. He was thinking clearly, making complex calculations, performing delicate work. The vacuum made him more focused, not less. The humans sabotaged 3 dreadnoughts from within. They did not just break random systems. They understood exactly how Vorthak technology worked and knew which components to target for maximum damage. Coleman's team destroyed navigation, weapons, and life support in precise sequence, Zekthara said. They turned our own ships into traps. When we tried to repair one system, others would fail. Colonel Beth Martinez led the boarding parties that followed Coleman's sabotage. She brought teams of humans onto every ship in the fleet, moving through ventilation systems and maintenance tunnels that were too small for Vorthak soldiers. Martinez was like smoke, the commander explained. She appeared wherever we were weakest, struck fast, and disappeared before we could respond. Our crew reported seeing her in 5 different places at the same time. The humans used Vorthak technology better than the Vorthak did. Martinez's teams reprogrammed security systems to work against the ship's own crew. They turned automated defenses into weapons that hunted Vorthak soldiers through the corridors. She made our ships fight us, Zekthara said with disbelief. Doors would not open for us but opened freely for humans. Lights went out in areas where we gathered but stayed bright where humans moved. What broke the morale of the Vorthak crews was how humans adapted to alien technology instantly. Equipment that took years of training to operate, humans mastered in minutes. Private Tony Walsh fought in the gravity control room, the commander described. When we increased gravity to 5 times normal to crush him, he used the extra weight as a weapon. Walsh had been pinned to the floor like everyone else when the gravity increased. Vorthak soldiers lay helpless under the crushing force, but somehow Walsh learned to move in the heavy gravity. He crawled along the floor, but he moved with purpose, Zekthara said. The extra gravity made his punches more powerful. He used the weight to break through armor that normal force could not damage. The human soldier turned the gravity weapon into his advantage. He moved through the ship using the increased weight to smash through obstacles and enemies. What should have been his death became his strength. Walsh learned to fight in heavy gravity faster than our pilots learned to fly, the commander explained. He turned a torture device into a training tool. Martinez coordinated her teams across multiple ships simultaneously. She seemed to know the layout of Vorthak vessels better than the crews who had served on them for years. She found rooms on our ships that we had forgotten existed, Zekthara said. Secret passages that were built centuries ago and sealed. She opened them like she had the original blueprints. The humans did not just steal Vorthak technology. They improved it. Coleman's modifications made ship systems work better than their original design. Martinez's teams upgraded weapons to be more accurate and more deadly. They fixed problems in our technology that we did not know existed, the commander admitted. Our engineers spent decades building these ships. Humans made them better in hours. The boarding actions spread panic through the entire fleet. Crews reported humans in areas that should have been impossible to reach. Soldiers spoke of humans walking through solid walls and appearing from empty rooms. Our crew started fighting shadows, Zekthara said. They shot at movements that might have been humans or might have been their imagination. Fear made them dangerous to each other. Martinez's psychological warfare was as effective as her physical attacks. She left messages for ship crews written in perfect Vorthak, explaining exactly how she would capture their vessels. She told us our own weaknesses, the commander explained, things about our ships and our tactics that should have been classified. She knew everything. The humans coordinated their attacks across dozens of ships simultaneously. When Coleman sabotaged one vessel, Martinez's teams on other ships would strike at the same moment. They fought like a single organism with many parts. We faced not individual humans but humanity itself, Zekthara whispered. Every human knew what every other human was doing. They shared thoughts faster than our communication systems could carry messages. By the end of the 3rd day, the mighty Vorthak fleet was crippled. Ships that had conquered star systems were being taken apart from within by small teams of humans who should not have been able to survive in space. We went from hunters to prey, the commander concluded. The humans did not just defeat us. They taught us that we never understood what hunting really meant. Yilmoth stared at his commander in disbelief. How many humans were involved in these boarding actions? 50, Zekthara replied. 50 humans destroyed our fleet of 12 ships with 3,000 crew members. And they were just getting started. Zekthara's whole body trembled now. Yilmoth could see that his commander was reliving the worst parts of his memory. The medical machines around the bed beeped faster as Zekthara's heart rate increased. The 4th day, Zekthara said, his voice barely a whisper. That was when we learned that humans can make the planet itself fight for them. The commander described the assault on New Helena's central hub. Vorthak forces had regrouped and planned a massive attack on the colony's main command center. They brought their heaviest weapons and their most experienced troops. We thought we could end it quickly, Zekthara said. Overwhelming force against a single building. Simple military doctrine. But when the Vorthak soldiers reached the command center, they found that the humans had allies. The local wildlife of New Helena had joined the battle. Corporal Kelly Brooks was waiting for us, the commander explained. She stood in an open field with dozens of large predators around her. Animals that should have been hunting each other were working together. The predators of New Helena were massive creatures with razor-sharp claws and powerful jaws. They normally avoided any contact with other species, but somehow Brooks had convinced them to fight alongside humans. She spoke to them, Zekathara said, his eyes wide with remembered terror. Not with words, but with sounds and movements. The animals understood her perfectly. Brooks had learned the language of every dangerous species on the planet. She communicated with pack hunters, solitary stalkers, and flying predators. They all responded to her commands like trained soldiers. A pack of six-legged hunters surrounded our main force, the commander described. They moved in perfect coordination with Brooks's hand signals. She directed them like a general commanding troops. The animals attacked with intelligence and strategy. They did not just charge at the Vorthak soldiers. They used tactics, setting ambushes and coordinating attacks from multiple directions. Brooks had taught them about Vorthak weaknesses, Zekathara explained. The animals knew exactly where to strike our armor for maximum damage. They fought like they had studied our military manuals. But the ground assault was only part of the nightmare. In space, Major Chris Parker had gathered a fleet of human vessels to challenge the remaining Vorthak ships. Parker's fleet was made of farming ships and passenger transports, the commander said. Civilian vessels with no weapons or armor. They should have been easy targets. Instead, Parker had turned the civilian ships into deadly weapons. He used farming equipment as missile launchers and cargo containers as armor plating. Every peaceful tool became an instrument of war. A grain harvester became a railgun, Zekathara described. Passenger shuttle engines were modified into plasma cannons. Parker saw weapons where we saw only civilian equipment. Parker's tactical genius exceeded anything in Vorthak military records. He predicted every move the Vorthak fleet would make, and positioned his inferior forces to exploit weaknesses that should not have existed. He fought like he could see the future, the commander said. Every Vorthak tactic we used, he had already prepared a counter-strategy. It was like fighting against our own battle plans, but better. The converted civilian ships moved in formations that violated basic physics. They changed direction without slowing down and accelerated beyond what their engines should have allowed. Parker somehow made civilian vessels perform like military fighters, Zekathara explained. Ships designed to carry crops outmaneuvered our fastest interceptors. On the ground, the situation became even more impossible. Human civilians had joined the fighting, and they transformed into deadly combatants in moments. An old woman named Helen Gray destroyed one of our heavy walkers, the commander said. She used explosives made from household chemicals. The blast was more powerful than our military demolition charges. Gray had no combat training, but she understood the walker's weak points better than the engineers who built it. Her homemade bombs were placed with surgical precision. She studied the walker for 5 minutes, Zekathara described. Then she built weapons specifically designed to destroy it. A civilian became a military engineer during battle. A teenager called Peter Kim had somehow captured and reprogrammed Vorthak combat drones. The automated weapons that had been hunting humans suddenly turned against their creators. Kim rewrote the drone programming in real time, the commander explained. He used a simple datapad to hack military-grade security systems. The drones obeyed his commands better than they ever obeyed ours. The reprogrammed drones did not just attack Vorthak forces. They coordinated with human fighters and animal allies to create complex battle strategies. Kim had turned them into an extension of human intelligence. Our own weapons reported our positions to human forces, Zekathara said bitterly. Kim made our drones spy for the enemy while pretending to serve us. Colonel Steve Roberts led the final human assault. He moved through the battlefield like destruction itself, destroying everything in his path with impossible strength and endurance. Roberts took a direct hit from a plasma cannon, the commander described. The blast should have vaporized him completely. Instead, he kept walking toward us. The colonel's armor had been melted by the plasma, but his body showed no damage. He grabbed pieces of destroyed Vorthak equipment and crushed them with his bare hands. He tore through our ship hulls like they were made of paper, Zekathara whispered. Metal that could resist meteor impacts crumpled under his fingers. Roberts did not use weapons. He was the weapon. Every piece of Vorthak technology he touched became useless scrap. He dismantled battle tanks by pulling them apart with his hands. He climbed onto our command walker, the commander said. 50 tons of armored death, and he treated it like a jungle gym. He pulled out essential components until it stopped working. The humans coordinated their impossible abilities into a unified assault. Brooks's animals provided reconnaissance while Parker's ships gave covering fire. Roberts led ground forces while Kim's drones provided support. They fought like they shared a single mind, Zekthara explained. Every human, every animal, every reprogrammed machine worked together perfectly. We faced an entire planet that had become one massive weapon. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Vorthak invasion force was completely destroyed. Ships, vehicles, and equipment lay in ruins across the battlefield. We lost everything, the commander said. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds reduced to scrap metal by farmers and shopkeepers. But the most terrifying part was what Roberts told Zekthara as the battle ended. The human colonel spoke in perfect Vorthak, explaining that this had been a training exercise for human forces. Roberts said they used our invasion to test new tactics, Zekthara revealed. We were not an enemy to be defeated. We were a learning opportunity. Yilmoth stared at his commander in shock. A training exercise? New Helena was one of humanity's weakest colonies, Zekthara confirmed. Roberts told me that stronger human worlds would have ended the battle in hours, not days. The implications hit Yilmoth like a physical blow. If this devastating defeat was just human practice, what would a real human military force be capable of? That was not the worst part, Zekthara said quietly. The worst part was what Roberts told me next. Zekthara's composure finally broke completely. Tears ran down his face as he continued his story. Yilmoth had never seen a Vorthak commander cry before, and it frightened him more than anything else he had witnessed. Roberts kept me alive on purpose, Zekthara said through his tears. He could have killed me at any moment during the battle. Instead, he protected me. He wanted me to survive so I could deliver a message. The commander described his final moments on New Helena. Colonel Roberts stood over him as Vorthak forces lay defeated around them. The human spoke in perfect Vorthak, but his words carried knowledge that should have been impossible for any outsider to possess. He knew the names of our high command, Zekthara said. He knew our military codes, our ship designs, our battle strategies. He knew things about the Vorthak Empire that are classified at the highest levels. Roberts had somehow learned everything about Vorthak society, government, and military structure. He understood their psychology, their weaknesses, and their fears better than most Vorthak citizens did. He told me about our childhood training programs, the commander explained, things that happened to me personally when I was young, private memories that I had never shared with anyone. The human colonel knew about Zekthara's family, his military service record, and his personal fears. He spoke about Vorthak culture like he had been born into it. Roberts explained our own history to me, Zekthara said. He knew about wars we fought centuries ago, about political decisions made by long-dead emperors. He understood the Vorthak Empire better than our historians. But knowledge was not the most terrifying thing about Roberts. The human colonel revealed that New Helena had been watching the Vorthak Empire for years, studying their expansion patterns and military tactics. He showed me recordings, the commander whispered. Human ships observing our battles with other species. They had been learning from every conquest we made. The humans had studied dozens of Vorthak military operations. They analyzed every tactic, every weapon, every strategy the Empire used. They prepared specific countermeasures for each one. Roberts told me that humans had infiltrated our command structure, Zekthara revealed. There are human agents among our crew, our officers, our government. We have been watched for decades. The revelation that humans had been secretly observing and infiltrating the Vorthak Empire shattered everything, Zekthara thought. He knew about galactic politics. He said that humans chose to let us conquer other worlds, the commander continued. They could have stopped us at any time, but they wanted to study our methods first. Captain Sam Baker appeared during this conversation. The human intelligence officer spoke to Zekthara like they were old friends, discussing classified Vorthak information with casual familiarity. Baker knew about our supply lines, our manufacturing capabilities, our population centers, Zekthara said. He had detailed maps of worlds we considered secret. Baker explained that humanity had been preparing for eventual contact with the Vorthak Empire. They had studied every aspect of Vorthak civilization and developed specific strategies for dealing with them. He told me about human colonies I had never heard of, the commander revealed. Worlds where humans had been building weapons and training soldiers specifically to fight us. The humans had not been reacting to Vorthak expansion. They had been preparing for it. Every human colony was a potential military base, every civilian was a potential soldier. Baker said that New Helena was considered a minor outpost, Zekathara explained. Their weakest defended world. He showed me lists of human colonies with much stronger defenses. The intelligence officer described human worlds with orbital defense platforms, fleets of military vessels and ground forces that made New Helena's defenders look like children playing with toys. He told me about Earth, the commander whispered. The human homeworld. Baker said that Earth's defenses could destroy our entire empire in days. But the most horrifying revelation was yet to come. Baker explained that humans were not just preparing to defend themselves from the Vorthak Empire. They were preparing to expand into Vorthak space. He showed me human expansion plans, Zekathara said. Maps of Vorthak worlds that humans intended to colonize. Our territory had already been divided among human settlements. The humans had been planning their own empire while pretending to be a peaceful species. Every world the Vorthak conquered, humans had already marked for future human habitation. Baker said that human expansion would begin soon, the commander revealed. They had learned everything they needed from studying us. Now they would use our own tactics against us, but better. Roberts returned to deliver the final message. He explained that Zekathara was being allowed to live so he could warn the Vorthak Empire about what was coming. Roberts told me that humanity was giving us one chance, Zekathara said. Withdraw from all expansion activities and return to our home systems. Or face the consequences. The human colonel made it clear that this was not a negotiation. It was an ultimatum. Humanity had the power to destroy the Vorthak Empire completely, and they were offering one opportunity to avoid that fate. He said that human forces were already moving toward our territory, the commander explained. Fleets of ships that make our dreadnoughts look like toys. They would arrive at our border worlds within months. Roberts described human weapons that could destroy planets, ships that could travel faster than anything the Vorthak had ever built, and soldiers who made the defenders of New Helena look weak by comparison. He told me that humans had been holding back during our battle, Zekathara revealed. They used only a fraction of their real capabilities. They were being gentle with us. The final message was simple and terrifying. Humanity was coming. The Vorthak Empire could choose to surrender now and survive, or resist and face complete annihilation. Roberts gave me this, Zekathara said, holding up a small device, a communication beacon. When I activate it, human representatives will contact our high command to discuss surrender terms. Yilmoth stared at the device in horror. What are you going to do? I am going to save our species, Zekathara replied. I am going to recommend immediate surrender to the high command, because the alternative is extinction. The commander looked at his young subordinate with desperate urgency. You must understand, Yilmoth. Humans are not just another species. They are something beyond our comprehension. They do not follow the rules that govern other life forms. Zekathara's voice became pleading. We thought we were the apex predators of the galaxy. We were wrong. Humans are what apex predators become when they evolve further. They are the next step beyond everything we understand. As Yilmoth prepared to leave, Zekathara grabbed his arm. Tell the High Command that resistance is impossible. Tell them that humans are not coming to conquer us. They are coming to replace us. The commander's final words echoed in the medical room as Yilmoth hurried away to deliver the most important message in Vorthak history. Tell them that the age of the Vorthak Empire is over. The age of humanity has begun.